Welcome to Hybiz News. My name is Suresh Kochattil. The COVID-19 pandemic has struck terror across the world. From the world of business to the world of politics, everyone has been impacted. More impacted has been media and the way it performs its duties. We have seen over the past 40 days, many editions not even turning up in print. More importantly, many editions moving on to the digital mode. To speak to us about all this and more, we have with us Mr. Srinivas Reddy, editor of Telangana Today, a veteran in the news business. Welcome to Hybiz News, Srinivas Reddy. The first and the most obvious question to start with is, how has this pandemic and the lockdown impacted your newspaper, Telangana Today, and print journalism in general?
Well, Telangana Today in specific, it is difficult to say that thing, but it is common across the board. We had to slash the print order because people had this suspicion that paper carries the virus. Though scientifically it is not yet proved, but there is a general herd mentality that you follow that thing. Peer pressure. We see lots of heaps of newspapers lying there in front of apartment complexes not being picked up. So everybody is feeling that thing, though it is not scientifically proved. So as a result, what happened was we had to slash the print orders. Just like any other group, we had to depend more on the digital thing. We do realize that there is a severe dearth of verified and authenticated information about the virus and the general happenings around. So we shifted our focus to the digital, like any other media organization. Everybody is doing that. So one way of looking at it is the convergence of the print and digital mediums has taken place now. But impact wise, yes, it did impact. I had to slash the circulation, ad revenue has come down. So nowadays I understand not many ads are coming, not many, very minimal ads are.
So you have more space to write.
More space to write, and we have slashed number of pages also because the acquisition of newsprint has become a problem now, buying the newsprint. Because ship movement has come to a standstill. Even if the ships have reached the ports, nobody is unloading that. So and dollar fluctuation is taking place. It has impacted us financially, it has impacted us on circulation wise, but then the good thing is that the kind of a news gathering that takes place in a newsroom generally, that has not been impacted. We continue to work. Of course, we are adapting, reinventing ourselves to work from home. The press conferences, we are covering it live. Of course, sometimes we go there, sometimes we do depend on the audiovisual media or even the live on WhatsApp and Facebooks. The issue here is that there is the effort to get the information to the people has not come down. Yes, it is a difficult time for us, but we are continuing that thing.
So the next question that would come up is, when the focus shifts to digital from a traditional print medium, and as it is, the print as a kind of across the world has been declining, but in India it was not declining. India especially, the print is still held on. Now with this move into digital, do you think there will be a greater acceptability to pay for e-paper? Because in India, the e-paper is free technically except for a couple of newspapers. But do you think the concept has come? Because like you look at New York Times today, it makes about 2/3 of its revenue today from digital subscription from what it was just a year ago. So do we see something similar? Will Indians still insist that everything should be free, or will they pay for the service?
No, I think it could take some more time for the Indian society to accept paywalls for the mediums. Because we have to look at several things when you look at India. The kind of technological innovations that have been taking place. Just about, let's say, 10 years ago, a decade ago, if you have to use a modern technology, developed technology, you got to pay more. But now, advanced technology is available at a cheaper price. Take example of an Android phone. You may spend ₹1,00,000 but to buy an iPhone, but you will get the similar features, touchscreen, and all functionalities, about 5,000 to 6,000 or max of 10,000, 1/10 of an iPhone. So when these functionalities are available, people would naturally shift to this thing. Coming to the media, this is the peculiarity of India that is happening. Elsewhere, there was a phased development of the information consumption. First it was the newspaper and radio, then came the television, then came the web, then came the social media, then came the digital forms. AI has taken over now. But in India, we are leapfrogging. The shift from one milestone to another milestone is very, very quick. You have leapfrogged into future. 10 years ago, we were happy with 2G. Now we are talking about 5G. And the kind of a penetration in the rural areas, that we have. If you look at the penetration of broadband, it is about 18% or max of 20%. But if you look at mobile penetration, it is more than 60 to 70%. That means illiteracy is no more an issue now. An illiterate can also operate a WhatsApp and see videos or share his information, whatever he thinks is truthful. So in this scenario comes the media industry. Technically, we were all focusing on print media only. All our energies on focusing, coordination, planning, we were so strongly tethered to the print medium that we find it difficult to switch over to the medium, digital medium, the new media. So that is where the complexity comes in. Certain news organizations have started efforts and they have moved on to the digital plane, but their 80% of their energy continues to be there on the print. So whatever is there on the print, transferring it to the digital platform was supposed to be the digital footprint of that particular newsroom. So traditional media, so successfully, they were only successful in the print media, and now they are finding it difficult to move over. But look at us, the new organizations, we have the advantage of a startup. We skipped an entire generation. See, we are just about 3.5 years old now. But right from the time we set up this newsroom, we made it a point that, web first policy we have successfully implemented here. It is not that easy to bring that change in the mentality of the journalist, newsroom. Traditional mainstream media, we have been focusing on this. Something happens at 10 o'clock, okay, we file at 5 o'clock, it reaches the reader next day morning. But to bring that urgency, sense of urgency into reporting for the web edition, it has taken us a lot of time. But we have realized that, when we started this newspaper, when we set up this newsroom, the newsroom culture itself was different. We said web first is the policy. Whatever happens, we will file it for the web. No matter, the general reluctance is that, you file something, the competitors will copy it. It does happen. It is happening now also. But then we can't help it. So what we do is that, a general development that happens, we report it for the web immediately. We add value to that and perhaps take it for the print edition later. While value addition could be in shape of an infographic, in the shape of additional material that has to be added to that. It could be an interactive infograph for the web, though we haven't made much success in that thing, interactive infographs on the web. But fairly, we have made, our efforts, and this Corona virus lockdown has come as a blessing in disguise. Monetarily, yes, we are down, but then I take it as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves, revalidate our thinking. My whole argument when I set up this newsroom was I took people from different newspapers. Some came from Deccan Chronicle, many of them came from the Hindu, some came from Times, some came from Metro India, some came from Telugu newspapers also, the technical staff. So to bring them into one idea, that a singular idea, that web first design, it has to be like this. We don't allow any design violations. There is a strict color palette. The design is the sacrosanct. But to bring them into that stage, it took a lot of time for us. And this Corona period, we realized that everything has fallen place. Introducing a change in the newsroom is the most difficult one. Change management is not that easy. Change can be an event. You say that change has happened, and you say that change has happened, it is an event, and you slip back to this thing. This happens with the most of the traditional media. This happens. 34 years into this profession, I can tell you, 22 years in a major newspaper, 22.5 years, I'll tell you, whatever I could not do, I'm doing it here. Because it is easy for me to implement it here. The rules and the systems become so ossified in traditional media that you find it difficult to break that. But here, Corona lockdown has come as a blessing in disguise, and we see the result. The page views, the number of users, new users, sessions per page, sessions per session, it almost tripled. So when I show this to my reporters saying that, look, you are worried about parting with your information, the so-called your information, leads to more of a people consuming that thing, and they will come back to you. Now they are convinced. What I could not convince 100%, this lockdown period, all my news making content generation team is convinced about the efficacy of reporting it for the web. This is the biggest achievement we have done.
Which brings to the next question is basically on the consumption of news. You did bring up that point. We have an entire generation like you and me who are the last possible readers of a print, traditionally quote print medium. That is, we wait for a newspaper to come in the morning and we are restless when it doesn't come. But the next generation, which is there, which is now like in the 20s and others, so they are not traditionally a newspaper reading. There used to be a time when people used to go to the sports page, the youngsters especially, and then look at the sports page and then come to the main edition, which the elders used to read. In such a scenario, you're seeing a lot of digital assets coming in, and you rightly said that you're going to bring web-based news there. That is, I need to hear it now, and that means right now. So in such a scenario, how is your organization going to use its news formats in a different world altogether? Because people don't have time to read 8-column articles. They need 300-word stories. So what's your take on the entire thing?
Yeah, you're 100% right in saying that thing. But we are in such a situation where you can't ditch the print medium. See, it is
no, I'm not saying ditch. What I meant is, how do you reinvent yourself? That's it.
How do we reinvent is that, by realizing and making all the stakeholders in the newsroom, whether it is a page editor or a sub-editor or a reporter or a design man or a print man or a technical guy, everybody bringing them onto the same page to say that it is not just A or B, but it is A and B. When we say that we focus more on the digital medium, it doesn't mean that we neglect the print, because we are at such a crossroads that there is some relevance for the print again. There are people looking up to that print newspaper. So we can neither neglect that thing nor this thing. So it is an equal focus. As a newsroom, leader, I find it the most challenging task not to have any deflection from the print, not to have a deflection from the or giving over importance to digital, but equal importance has to be given to both the fields. Then number two, as you said, this is a touchscreen generation we are seeing, the millennials. They are the digital natives, or whatever terms they may be using that thing. So they are happy. You see, the newspaper is, if you pick up a print edition, you pick 1, 2, 3, you talk about central visual impact, and then you design this thing, photographs, this and the thing. But if you come to the digital natives, the touchscreen generation, they make a lateral entry. They like one thing, they find it something on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or this thing. They make a lateral entry, then check up 2 or 3 pages, and then they move away. So we have realized that thing. So now what we are doing is to make the newsroom ready, to make them think like what a digital native thinks. Number one is the age factor. It is, my newsroom average age is about 20 to 23 years average. There are seniors. So as a result, what happens is we keep listening to them. We will not show our experience. We won't run down them, saying that we always welcome this. So that has helped us improve our presence on the digital newsroom. This is our preparedness. Beyond that, we need to do a lot more. It is just we are gathering information, verifying it, authenticating it, and publishing it. But I think we need to do more on the interactive content part of it. For example, there is a infographic we have published. This infographic, what we published on page 1, is a graph showing up or down, is good for the print. But how do I get it transformed into the web platform is a challenge for me.
It's more interactive there.
More interactive. How, to show that graph going up and coming down.
An animated way.
Animated one. So for that, there are certain technical problems we face. As a young newsroom, we do have that problem, but we hope to overcome that also.
Now the question, we move from the print now. I mean, I'm asking you as a news maker, I would call you that, about television. I know you're not an expert in that business, but you do watch, we all watch a lot of television. Then there is radio. What happens to these two medium also? Because they are also under huge challenge right now, because there is always now a talk of before Corona and after Corona. The world will now be the same again. That's what everybody appreciates, right from the business people to the media to Anybody, even in the education sector, everybody says what was there before will not come back to the same thing again. So if you're doing a crystal gazing and trying to predict the future of media, where do you think television will go? Where do you think the radio will go? And more importantly, where do you think, of course, the digital assets will go?
See, as far as the television, let's say, reportage is concerned, I think there has to be, if they continue the kind of reportage they are giving us, they are forcing on us, I think nobody will fall for it again. Because screaming into the camera and your ability to yak non-stop itself is a qualification. If it is to be considered as a qualification, it won't work anywhere. Because people will look for quality content, authenticated content and opinions also. Televisions are nowadays giving us more of opinions than the news. Society also wants to get these opinions so that they can enrich themselves in the knowledge and they can start arguing in favor or against it. But then the problem what happens is, you just can't depend on giving your opinion and start screaming about it. There has to be a qualitative change. The kind of a qualitative change I am looking at is more in-depth reporting, more serene reporting. At least I know 3 of my friends have switched back to televisions which do not indulge in shouting matches.
It's all about TRPs too.
So people are not worried about these things. They just switch over to something else, saying that okay, of all the things people are watching DD News nowadays. Why?
That's true.
The reason is that they want that consumption, but at the same time they want opinion. Why does Arnab Goswami is why is he famous? Is because he gives an opinion. Whether you like it or not, you agree with him, disagree with him, there is an opinion.
That's his perspective.
That is perspective. So I don't think that people will go ahead with that perspective, but they would like to know what exactly is perspective. He puts 10 people, at both ends of the extreme will be there shouting at each other. So you try to focus listening to one guy and try to understand what exactly is position. Fine. Opinions can be given, but they have to be shown as opinions. It need not be peddled as so-called.
Can't take a slant.
No. Slant will be there. See, the word objectivity itself is very subjective. How do we define objectivity? According to me, objectivity is something different. It is a subjective evaluation of a particular development that is happening. And more so when you look at the advent of the social media, the Web 2.0 technologies which have come, gone are those days that linear communication used to take place. Srinivas Reddy as a reporter reporting to Suresh Kochattil, he puts it in the paper and it reaches the reader next day, and then readers writes and 48 hours later it comes. This is a linear communication. With the social media, it is a horizontal communication that is happening. Peer-to-peer, group-to-group communication is happening.
Everybody is a reporter today.
People will share what they believe it to be true. So now a situation has come, if we come to Corona lockdown, whether it is television or the digital media or the social medium, people have started questioning whether what I got on my mobile phone through a message, is it true or false? That means the society wants authenticated, verified information which can be given only by a traditional newsroom. That way there is some future for print, some future for digital. And what do TV medium has to do? They have to become extremely responsible. They have to give authenticated information. They can't just run a scroll saying that something has happened and pull it down 2 minutes later saying that it is wrong. So when people are losing that interest, so winning back the confidence of the people is going to be a challenge for the TV medium. Right now, I watch lots of news channels. In fact, there was another television here. We used to run 2 news channels. I watch news just to read the scrolls rather than to listen, because I use this as a source of information. Gone are the days when reporters used to say that I got this news first. It is gone now. The game has changed. Everybody is just sharing it on a WhatsApp. Within 2 minutes, we will know what is happening. Right or wrong is a different issue. That is why in our newsroom briefings or every weekend or 15 days, when we meet the team leaders, the point of discussion is where we have gone wrong, where we are doing right, how do we reinvent ourselves, how do we go for the course correction. That is the happening. I don't know whether this course correction will happen in television because I am not from that medium.
34 years in the industry, you must have seen the world change from teleprinters, messages coming through tickers to a world where messages arrive on a phone. How will it be when you look back and look at the scenario right now? Would you have a kind of a grandfather approach to the entire thing and say, oh, those were the good old days, or these days are also good?
I wouldn't say in those days. Yeah, those days we had a lot of time to verify, cross-check and this thing. For example, I can still recall some landmine explosion took place somewhere in Hosnabad, and we had all the time we had. 24, nearly 8 to 10 hours we had in our hands. But now there is no time. But at the same time, the technology has improved so much that I can call up people and then find out, okay, what exactly is happening, and then with my sheer experience, I can say how much of it, that information is exaggerated. Any eyewitness tends to exaggerate things. This is a human, or say, tendency. So you get, if you are senior enough, if you are serious about your profession, you get to know what exactly is the percentage of exaggeration. Then you discount that thing, or if you believe that it is 100% true, you write it as it is your information, or you just quote it. These are all the techniques that are important.
The good old journalism is still there?
Of course it is there. It may not be visible, but it is still there. It is still there.
So people still talk about, journalism those days was journalism. Today it's more noise, than voice.
That noise is because predominantly, we have become coach potatoes, and we have willingly subjecting ourselves to so much of information consumption that, it becomes slightly difficult to digest all that information that is being put forth.
It's an information overload.
Oh, information overload and disinformation overload too. So I had to make a very conscious effort to understand what is disinformation, what is correct information. So these jokes are there, if you read this newspaper, you get the official version. If you read that newspaper, you get the counter view. So you read both to arrive at your conclusion. Average. So that means the law of averages is working out. So is the case with the televisions. So those were the days, problems were there. These are the days, problems are there in different formats.
I distinctly remember, because newsroom on that day night when Rajiv Gandhi died in Sri Perumbudur, we had a reporter sitting in Sri Perumbudur on a local phone, screaming out, and there was 5 guys standing outside the booth waiting for their chance to call up their news desk. So I think the world has changed a lot. Srinivas Reddy, thank you, appreciate you for speaking to us on all these issues. I know we can go on and on and on, but you have your day to catch up, and you have your newspaper to bring out tomorrow. That was Mr. Srinivas Reddy, editor of Telangana Today, delving deep into his experience as a newspaperman, as an editor, and maybe as a reporter in his early days, telling us how the world of news gathering has changed, and how the world of reporting has changed, and how the world of delivering news has changed. How it's going to be post-COVID, once the lockdown is eased down, is a matter of guess. It's as good as your guess as mine. Thank you for watching.